Murder in Maeberry. Maeberry had always been the kind of town where doors stayed unlocked and neighbours' greetings were as warm as the pie cooling on windowsills. The rolling fields and quaint cottages had a timeless charm, a world untouched by chaos. Until now. Sheriff Clara Hayes stood at the edge of Miller's Creek where the body had been found that morning. The victim, Mary Lou Chambers, was one of Maeberry's sweetest souls. Known for her smile and her caramel pecan bars, Mary Lou was the last person anyone would expect to meet a violent end. The call had come in at dawn, shattering Clara's routine of coffee and a crossword. Maeberry hadn't seen a murder in over 40 years, and Clara's role as sheriff had been more ceremonial than investigative. But now, with Mary Lou's lifeless body sprawled in the shallow water, that idyllic peace had been pierced. Clara knelt beside the body, careful not to disturb the scene. There were no obvious signs of a struggle, but a jagged wound on the back of Mary Lou's head suggested she'd been struck with something heavy. "A rock?" Clara murmured, scanning the creek bed. Her deputy, Eddie Morales, shook his head. No rocks nearby that would match. Whoever did this probably brought the weapon with them. "Premeditated," Clara said grimly. She stood and surveyed the area. The creek's gentle current whispered against the reeds, and the woods beyond seemed to hold their breath. Nothing felt out of place, yet everything did. Back at the station, Clara and Eddie began piecing together Mary Lou's last day. She'd been seen at the general store around noon, chatting with old Mr. Garrison. Later, she stopped by the church to drop off a pie for the bake sale. By evening, she'd vanished. "We'll start with her husband," Clara said, though she felt a pang of guilt for suspecting Hank Chambers. The man adored his wife, or so it seemed. Hank was inconsolable when Clara and Eddie arrived at his farmhouse. His alibi was solid. He'd been at the hardware store's poker night, a weekly tradition known to all. But as they left, Eddie whispered, "Grief aside." He seemed tense. Next on their list was Laura Fenton, Mary Lou's longtime friend. Laura owned Maeberry's only cafe, and she'd often been seen arguing with Mary Lou about the bake sales organization. "She's a control freak," Laura admitted when questioned. "But kill her? You must be joking." Then there was Billy Harper, the town's reclusive handyman. He'd been spotted near the creek the night before, but when confronted, he claimed he'd just been fishing. "Mary Lou and I barely spoke," he insisted. "I wouldn't hurt a fly." Clara's breakthrough came late that evening. She reviewed photos from the scene and noticed something odd. Mary Lou's shoes were clean. Too clean. If she'd walked to the creek, they should have been muddy. "She didn't walk there herself," Clara muttered. "She was carried." Eddie frowned. "So the killer is someone strong enough to move her without being seen," Clara finished, "and someone who knew exactly where to dump her." The final piece fell into place when Clara interviewed Hank again. This time she pressed him about his marriage. Tears welled in his eyes as he confessed. We were fighting. She wanted to leave me, said she was tired of the farm, tired of me." "Did you follow her to the creek?" Clara asked gently. Hank's face crumpled. "She said she was meeting someone. I thought it was another man. I just wanted to talk to her, but she wouldn't listen. I grabbed her arm and she pulled away. She fell, hit her head on the edge of the bridge." It wasn't premeditated, but it was still a crime. Clara placed Hank under arrest as he wept. Maeberry's peace was forever altered, its illusions shattered, but Clara's resolve had strengthened. She would protect her town, no matter how dark the shadows that fell over it. Weeks later, Clara stood by the creek, gazing at the spot where Mary Lou had been found. The town would heal, but scars would remain. Maeberry wasn't the same, and neither was she. Yet in the stillness of the water, Clara found a glimmer of hope, a promise to move forward one day at a time.